Hi, everyone. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to give this presentation in the industry seminar on Friday, but I've been quite unwell the past few weeks. But anyway, my name is Mel, and my interest in writing is largely in how it relates to film. So my presentation today is on the analysis on the aesthetics of writing in mind game films by way of Thomas Alsacer's article on the subject. So, the term mind game film, coined by Alsacer, describes films which are either playing mind games with its characters, with its audience, or often both. These films aren't limited to a single genre and can come from a variety of different backgrounds, from mainstream Hollywood to underground independent cinema. They've also been called puzzle films, twist films, or complex or modular narratives by other scholars. Examples of mind game films would include Memento, Donnie Darko, The Prestige, The Matrix, A Beautiful Mind, Fight Club, Blade Runner, The Sixth Sense, Mulholland Drive, and more recently, Arrival. What unites them, Alsacer writes, is a delight in disorienting or misleading spectators, with carefully hidden or altogether withheld information and frequent plot twists and trick endings. They also deal with ontological and epistemological themes about the nature of reality, the validity of characters' perception and their point of view. Are they breaking with reality, or is it reality itself that's breaking? These ideas are all important to keep in mind when considering the craft and aesthetic of these films' writing. Now, given that this is an examination of film, what the craft and aesthetic of their writing is becomes a little more abstract. Things like plot, characters, structure, and theme are self explanatory, but on a micro level, where prose fiction would use textual language to convey all these elements, film language and techniques are visual. But it's important to remember that these are just two sets of tools used for the same purpose. They're both building narrative. To illustrate this point, let's briefly examine the process of film production. A film begins its life as a script where those basic narrative elements are all decided. The script is then given to the director. She then decides on how the camera will tell the story and gives direction to her actors, who also make decisions about expressing character and dialogue. The footage is finally passed on to the editor, who arranges it together on a structural and momentary level. So small decisions and alterations are made to the narrative at every level of this development, but they are all guided by the script's original vision, what we might call the writing, and they all work together to create the aesthetic of the film. So, with all that established, returning to the aesthetic of the mind game film, what makes them unique is precisely how the way their stories are told becomes their aesthetic, and specifically how that storytelling ties in with those elements that Alsacer pointed out earlier. Another way to describe it would be that mind game films are marked by their unconventional storytelling techniques. To use an example, in Memento, and spoilers if you haven't seen this 20-year-old movie, the story of the film is told non linearly. It cuts between two sequences of events, one chronological and one in reverse. And the film ends in what might be called the middle, where those two sequences meet. Another example is in Arrival. The audience is led to believe that prior to the events of the film, the protagonist lost her daughter to cancer. But as the movie goes on, it's slowly revealed that contact with the aliens has granted her a non-linear perception of time, and so we learn that her daughter's death and entire life have in fact yet to happen. Both of these films highlight not only a unique structure and relationship with time, but also demonstrate another core aspect of the mind game film, how our perception can shape our sense of reality. These films often highlight the importance of subjectivity, where what we as the audience see and think to be true parallels directly with one of the characters, typically the protagonist. This means important twists in the plot and moments of realization happen with the audience and the protagonist simultaneously. Again, to provide some examples, in The Matrix, the audience learns that the world is a simulation at the same time as Neo does, and we realize that Tyler Durden isn't real at the same moment that Edward Norton does in Fight Club. These films might foreshadow the twist by dropping hints or creating a sense that something strange is going on. But as pointed out in the Alsace article by two anonymous forum posters, these hints really exist to be noticed on repeat viewings. That's what separates a mind game film from a traditional mystery, where in that case, all the clues and puzzle pieces are given to the audience, so it's possible that they could solve the mystery before the final denouement. So these storytelling techniques aren't employed simply to shock the audience or be stylistic, they're used for two important reasons. The first is to embody the old writing mantra that showing is more effective than telling. These techniques allow the audience to experience the ideas of the story, like time, memory, perception, reality, on a much more direct and tactile level. And by making the mode of storytelling so important, it changes the overall feeling of the story itself. The second reason is that, given the complexity of the narrative and the way that it's told, these films demand your engagement. It's not enough to passively absorb them, as you may not even grasp what's going on. You must give these films your full attention and your focus to interpret them and understand what it is that it's trying to say, both subtextually and on a surface level. And this engagement doesn't end once the film is over. As Alsace points out, part of why there has been such a boom of these kinds of movies in recent decades is the proliferation of the internet, which has allowed online communities surrounding these films to spring up and facilitated further discussion and analysis among fans. These two reasons are the effect mind game films have on the viewer, and they come precisely from their elevated aesthetic, which is comprised of the philosophical themes and questions they explore, and told through their unconventional storytelling techniques as expressed through the filmmaking. And so I'd like to tie each of those two reasons into one of my discussion questions. And apologies once again that I can't be there to lead the discussion in person. So the first question is, if the selling point of a story is the unconventional way it is told, how important are more basic or traditional narrative elements like character and plot? Can a film get away with having flat characters if it means there's something more interesting going on? And the second question is, if a complex narrative or mode of storytelling forces you to engage with it, how valid is that engagement? Or another way of saying that is that type of engagement the same as enjoyment? So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to reading your responses to those questions on the discussion board. Have a good day.